This is part one of a basic introduction demonstration of HouseBot. It'll introduce some of the fundamental concepts of the HouseBot server, touch on some really basic configuration. HouseBot is a home automation software application that allows you to monitor and control various things around your house. One of the really cool features of HouseBot is that in addition to fully automating things, you can run software remotes to manually control things using a remote computer, like a touchscreen PC. Software remotes are completely customizable and make great remote controls. There's another demo video that gives an overview of software remotes, so I won't get into them here. The general idea is that you get the HouseBot server configured to automatically control devices in your house, and it just runs in the background all the time. So there's a bit of initial configuration to get things set up to meet your needs. Before you can even start configuring the server, you'll typically need to connect some kind of interface device to the HouseBot server so that it can actually control physical devices in the home. Depending on the requirements, things like light switches and other outlets that need to be controlled will need to be replaced with automated devices too. So in HouseBot, you first need to configure any of these hardware interface devices that you have attached to the computer. For example, I may have an RS-232 or USB attached device that controls X10, Insteon, or Z-Wave devices. Or it could be a caller ID modem so that HouseBot can trigger an action when a call is received. Pretty much anything you have physically connected to the computer will be considered a hardware interface. In this demo, I'm going to configure this RS-232 attached Z-Wave controller to control this light using this Z-Wave switch. So the first thing I'm going to do is set up a hardware interface to the controller. For Z-Wave, you have to teach the controller about devices in the Z-Wave network, but I've already done that to help this demo along. A setup wizard guides you through the initial configuration. I'm going to find the hardware interface here in the list. I'm going to select it. I'm going to give it a name. And that's it. Next, I'm going to select the COM port that this controller is attached to. And I'm going to go ahead and enable it. Now that it's set up, HouseBot can communicate to Z-Wave devices in the home. The next thing is to create devices. Devices are really the heart of the configuration in HouseBot. If you can understand the concept of devices and properties, it will make understanding and configuring the system much easier. Generally speaking, a device is HouseBot's software representation of a physical device in the house that's to be monitored or controlled. There are also software devices that work kind of the same, but represent software applications that can be controlled and monitored as well. Every device has one or more properties. The properties are related to what the device can do, so they're typically different for every device. We can look at one here. I'm going to create a device that will use the Z-Wave hardware interface that we just created to control a light. The device setup wizard first asks if this is a software type of device or if it's a physical device that will be controlled using a hardware interface. So I select the option for requiring a hardware interface. And it will ask me which of the hardware interfaces I want to use. By asking this question, it will present a list of only the devices that the selected interface can control. You can see in this list that it only has Z-Wave devices for me to select from. So I'll choose a Z-Wave dimmer switch. I give it a name. I give it a node number. I know the node number of the switch because it's listed in the hardware interface configuration, but we skip that step for this demo. And we're done. Now we have a new light switch device. The device has various properties that we can use to control and monitor the switch. You can see them right here in the list. You can also see them if you click over here in the tree. This light switch device has a power state property. This is what we use to turn the light on and off. You can see that if I change the power state to on, the light switch is on. I can also set the dim level as well. So a property displays what HouseBot thinks to be the current state or value. So for a light switch device, the power state will indicate whether the switch is on or off. If the switch is a two-way switch that can send out a notification when it's manually changed at the physical switch, the same power state property will be updated with the change. So what I'm going to show here is that you can turn the light on manually at the switch, and the HouseBot property is automatically updated to reflect the new state. So I'll turn it on. You can see the light comes on, and if you notice, it might be difficult to see on the screen, the power state is turned on. Turn the state off at the switch, the state turns off. You can even watch the dim level change as I dim it up and dim it down and then turn it back off. So it might seem a little odd at first that properties not only show the current state of something relating to the device, but they also control the device as well. It's a great simplification that makes configuration a lot easier. We'll talk more about devices and how they work in the system in part 2 of this demo. If you're interested in exploring the software yourself, you can download a free, non-restricted 30-day trial from the HouseBot website at housebot.com.